In Mark 2, Matthew 12, and Luke 6, there is a story about Jesus and his disciples walking through a grain field on the Sabbath. Since they were hungry, they grabbed some grain, rubbed it in their hands, and ate it. I didn't even know you could do that. But apparently, the religious Pharisees were obsessing over other people's behavior, as religious folk so often do. And they called them out for working on the Sabbath. Nobody likes a stickler, not even Jesus. So he reminds them of this story about David found in 1 Samuel 21, when he was on a secret mission for the king, and he asks the priest and Nob for some bread for his men. Mark says the high priest was Abiathar at the time, but Samuel says the lower priest who helped them was named Amalek. Anyway, all the priest has is consecrated bread, but since the man haven't had sex in a while, they're allowed to eat it. In each of the synoptic accounts, Jesus says, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of food? He entered the house of God and took and ate the bread of the presence, which it is not lawful for any but the priests to eat, and gave some to his companions." Luke adds, "Or have you not read that in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple break the Sabbath and yet are guiltless? I tell you, something greater than the temple is here. But if you had known what this means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless." Mark says Jesus added, "The Sabbath was made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath." All three close with, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." The Ten Commandments were delivered to the people of Israel for good reason. They were kind of a wreck. They were Egyptian slaves for about 400 years. Then they got lost in the desert for 40 years. And when they finally escaped, they needed a little help sorting their lives out. Eventually, they realized that they needed a lot more laws, over 600 of them, to reconcile all of their disturbing behavior. But at the time, they had 10 to get them on the right track. After 4 centuries of slavery, they didn't realize they were even entitled to a day off. Slaves don't get vacations or overtime pay either, but rest is good for people. And after all that they'd gone through, the Israelites were due for a little self-care. The Sabbath gave them the opportunity to not be forced to work and to take some time for rest and recuperation. As is often the case with humans, we replicate what we see. And we often treat other people the way we have been treated, even when that treatment is abusive. After 4 centuries of being forced to work by the Egyptians, the Pharisees later took on that authoritative role and ironically forced people not to work, at least not on the Sabbath. Just as the Egyptians were all up in their business, the Pharisees tended to get all up in everybody else's business. In the realm of Christianity, the Roman Church spent 600 years spreading fear, pain, torture, and death through various inquisitions. And now we see the ramifications of those abuses in the Pharisees of today. Just as the Pharisees of Jesus' day gave lip service to their religious practices, yet still treated people terribly, so do we have religious folk today who claim to believe in Jesus, but treat people with utter disdain. Some is due to generational trauma, and some is due to not fully understanding the implications of their own religion. Instead of recognizing the Sabbath as a gift from God it was intended to be, the Pharisees saw it as an opportunity to attack and abuse others, just as their people had historically been attacked and abused. While they could have fully embraced the gift that life is and taken a day off from giving people a hard time, they decided to miss the point completely, as obsessive people often do. Obsessively religious people are still doing the same thing today. For instance, Christians have a perfectly good Bible that some use as a means of understanding God better and opening up to a more loving way of living in the world. But many see it as an opportunity to attack and abuse, just as the Pharisees did with their limited knowledge of the Sabbath. Similarly, we might say that the Bible was made for humankind and not humankind for the Bible. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Bible, and the Bible should not be Lord of anyone. The Bible can be a great tool for spiritual growth, and it can be considered a wonderful gift when used for that intention. Unfortunately, too often it is used as a weapon of misunderstanding of both God and other people. At least the Pharisees only hassled other Jewish people, whereas many Christians today attack people that don't even belong to their religion. This is the second time Matthew says Jesus reminded the Pharisees of the prophet Hosea, pointing out that the hardness of either their hearts and or their heads won't allow them to understand that God desires mercy over sacrifice. Just as he told them something was greater than the temple, so is the manifestation of love through us greater than the manifestation of religion through us. May we all open to God's true gifts.